Welcome to the HSC Alliance MasterClass series. Today we talk about, are our halal food supply chains broken? This is MasterClass 5, an important topic. We talked last MasterClass on Halal Indonesia, very well attended. And also this, I think, will be an important topic to talk about our halal food supply chains. Let me just put on my slides. In this masterclass, we will be covering why do we need end-to-end halal supply chains? What is an end-to-end halal supply chain? The future of halal supply chains, and also in particular the halal ecosystems, and the importance of halal supply chain ratings. So why do we need end-to-end halal supply chains? So end-to-end halal supply chains are very important. So we see on the one hand that halal is moving away from a product approach towards supply chain and value chain. So the halal supply chain is already supported in several countries like Malaysia, like Indonesia, also with logistics standard. Indonesia is in making. In fact, the Malaysian halal supply chain standard, the MS 2400, also became the international reference for halal supply chain standard. So the international halal supply chain standard, HSC SMIC 17, hosted in Turkey, and the HSC SMIC, they adopted the Malaysian halal supply chain standard as the international halal supply chain standard. We see that movement towards supply chain is supported by halal logistics standard and halal supply chain standard. We also see that the future is towards an end-to-end halal value chain as well. So incorporating more components, including Islamic finance, branding, marketing, sustainability. That will be the future of the halal value chain. So on the one hand, this is supported by standards, and also on the one hand pushed by halal certification bodies. What we also see, however, is that this is also supported by also the Muslim consumer. So we have seen boycotts over the years of products that were not in line with Islamic values. And that has been affecting big brands. So it's important to realize that pressure not only comes from the government, but also the Muslim consumer is increasingly demanding end-to-end supply chains and also incorporating Islamic values in the halal value chain. So we see that halal is moving towards the supply chain and value chain. So the halal certificate should not be the end goal. So similar to a driving license, the driving license tells you you're allowed to drive a car, but it doesn't mean you are a good driver or you don't make any mistakes. So a halal certificate you should see similar to the driving license. You're allowed to be operating in the halal space, but it is not the end goal. You have to work on building a solid halal reputation and halal DNA, a total halal value chain. So that is the end goal, and the halal certificate is just the start. So what is an end-to-end halal supply chain or a halal food supply chain? So I wrote a book on halal business management. In my book, I talked about the halal supply chain, and I defined the halal supply chain as a network of connected and interdependent organizations, mutually and cooperative, working together to manage, control, and improve the flow of materials and information in compliance with the general principles of Sharia. So it is not really a chain, a one-to-one relationship. It is an entire network. It can start at the farm up to the supermarket. It can also start before the farm, because animals need injections, you need animal feed. So there might be sometimes a step before the farm. Also after the supermarket, we also have e-commerce delivery, so it goes to the doorstep. So we see that the beginning and the end of a halal supply chain is very important. Therefore, I've been defining halal supply chain management as the management of the halal network with the goal of extending halal integrity from the beginning of the supply chain up to the point of consumer purchase. So that is important to look at the whole supply chain. So the beginning of the supply chain can be the farm, or before that, or after it, later than that, and the end of the supply chain. It can be the supermarket, can also be after the supermarket, can be at the restaurant, it can be in the supermarket, or in case of e-commerce, all the way to your doorstep. That demarcation of the supply chain is very important because it also is looking at the responsibility of the brand owner. So similar to food safety, also halal is the responsibility of the brand owner because the halal logo is on the product packaging of the brand owner. So the demarcation is important in terms of responsibilities. I like to avoid the phrase farm to fork because it's not accurate. So if you talk about supply chain, it is a network. So for example, in this overview, that structure according to Lambert and Cooper, they show a structure like this. So for example, you have a chocolate manufacturer, Nestle, Cadbury are famous chocolate manufacturers, also facilities in Malaysia. In the middle, that black box is, for example, the manufacturer of the chocolate. And then left in the supply chain upstream, we have suppliers to the chocolate manufacturer. So in chocolate, we have cocoa, we have milk powder, sugar, we also need packaging materials. So these are all supplies to the manufacturer. After the product is manufactured, the chocolate, it goes to the distributor, to the logistics service provider, to the retail within a country, like in case of Malaysia, to retailers in Malaysia, to restaurants in Malaysia, but also it's being exported to Indonesia or to the Middle East, both Muslim and non-Muslim countries. So a simple supply chain becomes, in fact, a quite extensive network to manage. It's good to note that not every link in a supply chain is as important as others. So we would like to differentiate between so-called managed process links, monitored process links, not managed process links, and non-member process links. So normally the non-member process links you don't put in your supply chain structure, but the not managed process links could. So what are the different process links we differentiate in a supply chain? So the managed process links are the links such as ingredient supplier to the chocolate producer. So the supplier of cocoa, milk, sugar, and packaging materials. So that is a typical managed process links. For suppliers, it's important that for ingredients they are halal certified, and even packaging material can be halal certified. Also, links before that, so in case we talk about animal-based products, so in chocolate you might also have gelatin. So gelatin comes from the animal, the bone. So in that case, it's extremely important also that the slaughtering process was according to Sharia requirements. So in that case, also when there's a gelatin sourcing, also the slaughterhouse of the animal to be used for the gelatin production is also part of the managed process links, where the halal certificate will be extremely important to be recognized by the halal authority that is also certifying your chocolate. Then a less important process link, but still quite critical, is the monitored process link. A monitored process link is a process link that will be integrated, managed, but where the focal company simply monitors or audits how this is integrated. So it goes still quite extensive quality control, but not as important as the managed process link. So examples are the supplier to the packaging supplier, a cocoa farmer, smaller e-commerce players on the downstream side, whereas a big distributor or big retailer will be part of the managed process links. So for Halal certification, it can be quite critical for both the managed process links and monitored process links. Not managed process links are process links which are not really important in a Halal supply chain. For example, your supply of stationary supplies. These products don't enter into the product. They're not supposed to enter into the product. So these are not important. So in some cases, you don't even draw those linkages in the supply chain. You might also have very small customers that are also buying your chocolate. There might be street stalls, might be restaurants that you might not directly put, or you summarize, you group it together in downstream activities. So non-member process links finally are not imported links. So these are links you don't draw in a supply chain. But it's good to put them out in there as a definition. But normally you don't draw those links in there. So there can be other suppliers to your customers that have probably little relevance, or suppliers to your suppliers that are of non-importance, such as supplier of your stationary equipment. So what are the biggest issues in Halal supply chain? So often what I see, so I've been working with brand owners to do supply chain audits. So we have been working on looking at where are critical issues, where are bottlenecks, where are issues that needs to be improved in order to strengthen the robustness of an Halal supply chain of a brand owner. So what we often see when we are looking at the Halal assurance system of brand owners, we often see that the Halal control points are limited to their own factory operation, the manufacturing, and also the ingredients. We call that the internal supply chain. But there are no Halal control points defined in the Halal assurance system outside the internal supply chain at the supplier side, or when we talk about the logistics operation, the operation at the distributor, which are also part of the supply chain network. By not having those defined in the supply chain, there are possibilities that there are no Halal control points at all in your supply chain beyond your own facilities, which could be a potential breach of integrity of your supply chain. Also, in case of issues in your supply chain, you're still responsible, so could have big reputational consequences. So we also do audits and visits to brand owners, supply chain partners, and what we often see is that knowledge is often very well on Halal in the factory of the brand owner. But if we talk for meetings in the head office, when they talk to the supply chain director, procurement director, or marketing director, I interview that person. And then the last question, by the way, when did you have your last training? And often they say then, well, I didn't have that training yet. So these are common things we see. Also, when we visit distributors and even retailers, we often see limited knowledge on Halal. So often we see sometimes they're not even Halal certified. And in case they're even Halal certified, we often see they have a limited knowledge on Halal. So we have been working with multinational brand owners that also created their own Halal education program, which was also executed by their either Halal team or the marketing people that are visiting those distributors. It's extremely important that knowledge is beyond the factory, also head office, and also with your supply chain partners. And If that is not in place yet, it's also good for brand owners to take the responsibility, because at the end, the brand owner is responsible for the halal risk and reputation. Halal should be enforced through contracts. So in our audits, we also look at what are the contracts in place with your suppliers, what are the contracts in place with your distributors and retailers. It's good to note that procurement is an important focus, of course, of the internal Halal committee, and focus, of course, on compliance regarding ingredients. The procurement is involved in drafting those contracts for the suppliers. However, for other supply chain partners, like distributors and retailers, those contracts are not drafted by procurement. They're drafted by marketing, or when it is a logistics contract, by the supply chain department. And what we see often is that there are no halal clauses in those contracts. So it is not always consistent at procurement, but often even missing at contracts with distributors and logistics service providers. And that's a big miss, because I think performance and also integrity should be enforced through contracts. So contracts are important in creating a halal supply chain by design. What the other misses is that I often see that halal is delegated, the responsibility of halal is dedicated to an internal halal committee. It is often not a main responsibility considered by top management. And we also see there, as a result, that we have operational indicators developed by the internal halal committee. They are often very operational. Did we have any halal issues, compliance of suppliers, how many people are trained, or percentage of people trained. So very operational, but not really KPIs that give direction. Finally, there's a lack of collaboration in supply chains. Although brand owners might have programs to collaborate within their own supply chain, that is also known as vertical collaboration. Horizontal collaboration is collaboration between other supply chains. So Cadbury working directly together with Nestlé, Danone, and so on. And that is often less practice. I think a big miss, because I think the real benefits and synergy benefits are in particular in the area of horizontal collaboration. It is one of the main focus areas also of the Halal Supply Chain Alliance I'm working for. So if we talk about controlling a halal supply chain, it's about halal integrity by design. We see, of course, a lot of initiatives in terms of halal traceability, blockchain. Sure, I think those tools can be helpful and can create transparency in the halal supply chain. Important to build trust. We have to be careful, though, in purely relying, I think, on technology, because your halal supply chain, the integrity of a supply chain is as weak as is, or as strong as its weakest link, and not as strong as its strongest link. So I think it is about compliance by design. Enforcing that by contract clauses is important. There is a need for a halal supply chain blueprint, at least cover halal control points in your halal assurance that go beyond your own operation. Because if you don't have those control points, you cannot properly measure and control it. Supply chain selection is extremely important for halal supply chain. Of course, one of the criteria could be, are you halal certified? But if you're dealing with international supply chains, that's not always the case, that all your halal supply chain partners can be halal certified. Even in countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, it is not always that easy to arrange that. So contract clauses will be important in here. Even if your supply chain partner is halal certified, it doesn't mean that they have the right halal control points in place. So we've seen it in many cases that when we auditing logistics service providers, several logistics service providers all certified by the same halal authority, and they had certain critical halal control points were missing in the logistics operation, although they were halal certified. So even though a supply chain party is halal certified, it's important that the halal control points of the brand owner are also taken over by the supply chain partners. Don't assume if halal certification body is certified halal company, supply chain partner, that they have the right halal control points in place. It's a dangerous assumption. So that's about the supply chain. So what is the future of halal supply chains? And I think in particular is important, I think there will be an important role of halal ecosystems to make this happen. So the halal industry, as you know, is a multi-trillion industry. The Dinar Standard is producing every year the State of the Global Islamic Economy report. This is an abstract of their latest report launched by them. It shows that the halal food industry is close to $2 trillion US. And other areas which are big in cargo are also fashion, cosmetics, and pharmaceutical. These are all the important cargo flows. So although the Muslim world is often celebrating the size and fast growth of the halal industry, the biggest problem is not the lack of demand, there's a lack of supply. So there's systematic shortages are there of ingredients. We talk about food ingredients, but also cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. I've been working on procurement research projects with Indonesian universities. We do research on halal procurement in the industry in food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. I've been publishing that over the past years, and we see a common theme is that the systemic shortage of ingredients, food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. So it's extremely important that this is being addressed because that is limiting the growth of the halal industry. Second, what we see is there's a limited role of Muslim majority countries in the halal value chain. So this is also, I think, good, which you can see also from the same report by Dinar Standard, is if you look at the trade flows. So which are the biggest halal markets? The OSCE countries. And number one is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Number two, UAE. Number three, Turkey. Four, Indonesia. And number five, Malaysia. So these are the biggest halal markets in the world. So these are these five top countries. If we look, on the other hand, the countries that are exporting to the Muslim world, we see the following countries. So the largest exporter to the Muslim world is China. Number two is India. Number three is Brazil. Four, Russia and the US. Some years ago, we still had a Muslim majority country, Turkey, in the top five of exporters to OSCE. Today, not anymore. So the largest exporters to OSCE, these are all non-Muslim countries, right? So, and we see that China is even getting bigger in this. So the difference between number one, China, and the rest is growing year by year. So what we see that some Muslim majority countries like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is working on the halal ecosystem to attract production to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Also, Malaysia and Indonesia have already earlier had the vision or from the government to become global halal hubs. So Malaysia and Indonesia also trying to become a bigger player in the halal industry. So this is an important picture, I think, to show the importance that the Muslim world also become a big producer of halal and next to being a consumer. So what is important is in building a halal ecosystem is not just developing halal industry, but to create clustering. So a cluster is important. I describe that in my book as a geographical concentration of interconnected companies and institutions, in particular halal industry. So we need a clustering of industry. Malaysia has been very good in clustering electronics in Penang. Silicon Valley is another successful cluster of IT in the US. The Netherlands, where I'm from, they are quite successful in food. They created clusters, and in that cluster, we not only have manufacturing of end products, we also have a supply industry that is very well developed. We have supporting industry that's very well developed. We have also education, trade that support all that. So that is what I call a cluster. I've been doing research for more than 10 years on halal clusters and halal ecosystems. And in a halal cluster and halal ecosystem, we see that the center is the halal supply chain, which is most important. And the halal supply chain should be as complete as possible within the geographical area, so that can be supported by industrial zones. In Malaysia, we have 22 halal industrial zones, and not all of them are truly ecosystems or clusters, but these are industrial parks. It is important that the parties in a cluster have a relationship with each other, so they can have a buyer-supplier relationship. They can be supporting industry or providing knowledge or services. Other components important are the logistics. In particular for halal, it's important that there is halal storage available, that they have access to a halal transportation network. Infrastructure is in place, such as a halal certified port facility or halal compliant port facility. There could be a role of halal certification bodies. Also, government can have a role in incentives. Halal trade can be facilitated, as well as Islamic finance. Education and research has been considered very important for the success of ecosystems. So Silicon Valley is also supported by two top universities. The food cluster in the Netherlands is supported by Wageningen University, number 2 agri-food university in the world. The same also in the electronics ecosystem in also Penang is also supported by a university in Penang. So education and research is extremely important to make halal clusters a success. Sustainability, an important agenda nowadays for industries. Some companies, particularly if they're listed, they need to comply with ESG reporting, which also drills down to suppliers. In my book, Halal Business Management, I talk about a new concept. Instead of economies of scale, economies of scope, I talk about the economies of change. And what do I mean with economies of change is that we need to relook at how do we build supply chains. For example, if we look at coffee, when you make coffee, the rest product is used coffee grounds. So normally people throw that away. But used coffee grounds can also be used to grow mushrooms. The waste product of mushroom production can be used as input for animal feed. So by linking the coffee supply chain to mushroom and also animal feed, I mean, these are not traditional linkages by working together, but they can quadruple your profits and also improve your sustainability of operations. So we have to relook at how we organize supply chains, including halal supply chains. And economies of change should also be a topic that should be used in the development of those halal ecosystems that also comply not only with halal, with food safety, but also meeting high standards on sustainability. And we see that in a lot of important big markets, including Europe, but also US and also the Middle East, we see an increasing importance of sustainability. So if you want to serve those markets, you need to work on sustainability. So I've been working also on the development of a new concept for halal ecosystems. I call that Halal Park 2.0. In Halal Park 2.0, we go beyond the physical halal industrial zone, which is a dedicated area for halal industries that can be supported by government incentives. In Malaysia, we have Halmas incentives under the Malaysian government that gives you, for example, 10 years tax-free allowance. That these are very beneficial to companies that are investing in a halal industrial zone. It can also be supported by halal certification bodies to simplify halal certification and so on. So these have been traditional halal parks that have been built over the last 10 years in both Muslim but also non-Muslim countries. In particular in Asia, there were those ecosystems developed in Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, but also Philippines and Thailand. What I think is important to move beyond just a halal park for halal industries to become a real cluster. So you need to have a focus. So for example, a halal food cluster, a halal meat cluster should be buyer and supplier relationships in a halal ecosystem. So there should be synergy advantages for companies to be located in there. Also, there should be an important role for halal supply chain and technology. Important that storage facilities can be shared. The access to halal transport for Asia, ritual cleansing is important. Sustainability should be addressed. I mean, for SMEs, halal certification is already a challenge, and food safety to get halal certified, to get HACCP certification, ISO certificates, a lot of problems. To make it easier for SMEs is important. Also, sustainability can be made easier for SMEs by being part of an halal industrial park that has facilities that use solar energy or wind energy or thermal energy, or an environment where your suppliers are close by. So when your customers and suppliers are close by, you also have a lower carbon footprint. A final component is Islamic finance and a possible role for Waqaf. So what we have seen traditional that the halal industry was kind of separated from the Islamic finance. I think the biggest value, or one of the key values of an halal ecosystem should be that the halal industry and Islamic finance should come together. And there are different Islamic financial formulas that make that happen. Daud Vikri, the chairman of HSC Alliance, in one of his talks, one of the first masterclass, he went much deeper into the topic of Islamic finance. I would also like to refer to that masterclass from Daud Vikri on that topic. But it needs to come together. So if you talk about the future of halal supply chains, I think it's important that we need to work with an ecosystem. And this is important to increase production, in particular Muslim majority countries, production of end products, but also to boost the production of ingredients, which is an important bottleneck today in the halal industry. If you talk about the halal supply chain rating is something which we developed under the Halal Supply Chain Alliance. Why is halal supply chain rating important? Because your halal supply chain, the integrity of your halal supply chain is as strong as its weakest link. So you need to have a supply chain approach to the topic of halal. So logistics integrity is important. It's important for brand owners to better control the integrity in the supply chain. It can also be used as a tool to benchmark and improve, but also select your supply chain partners. And in our discussion with big brand owners on our halal supply chain rating, they were very enthusiastic. And they saw it as an important independent tool because a halal certificate for big brand owners is not good enough as a selection criteria for suppliers. So the Halal supply chain rating would benefit them. So the Halal supply chain rating is an important rating, a 5-star rating that can be an important symbol for Halal excellence. So the organizations we rate are logistics organizations, can be ports, terminals operators, transportation, warehouse operators, but also parties in the supply chain such as suppliers, retailers, distributors, Halal Park, and also end-to-end supply chains for brand owners. So the Halal supply chain rating will strengthen corporate reputation, Halal trust, and also provide a competitive advantage also when serving Muslim markets. And we see that the Halal requirements are getting more strict in Asia, with Indonesia making Halal certification of the supply chain, Halal requirements for the supply chain mandatory by law. I expect it also for Malaysia in the coming years also to be important and also mandatory by law, possibly before 2030. So this can be an important tool for industries. It also provides an easy feedback on where are still opportunities to strengthen. In the Halal supply chain rating, we do rate organizations and supply chains in 7 criteria. So we assess the cleanliness, which is an important foundation of Halal, where we're looking at the practices regarding cleanliness of staff, but also the operations floor. Identification of Halal is important. So how is Halal identified on freight documents, on labels, on boxes? Is there consistency of that, how it is communicated also to the next party in the supply chain? Customer service regarding any inquiries on Halal. Halal inspection. Some of the inspection might happen within your own facilities. You might also do audits outside. In case you have an audit, Halal inspection or an inspection at the international borders like seaports, airports, then also you can have a dedicated Halal inspection for products that are Halal or Halal certified. I've been working with ports in Malaysia on Halal inspection, as well as also a big logistics service provider in the port of Rotterdam that also had the license to inspect cargo that comes into the EU. And they have a dedicated Halal facility there, but also have a dedicated Halal inspection. So the Halal inspection of cross-border is extremely important to protect the Halal integrity of products that are coming in and avoid any cases of contamination. And then the range and quality of Halal services. So what is the scope of services? Storage, transportation, repackaging, ritual cleansing, but also prayer areas. So what kind of services are you offering in the realm of Halal? Access to Halal supply chain networks is important. So you might have a warehouse as a distributor or logistics provider, but transportation you don't have your own trucks. So do you have it outsourced? How do you work with partners in case it's not part of your own operation? And finally, meeting Halal standards. So Halal standards are important. So Halal standards, we talk about the certification of your operation. So are you Halal certified against which standards, by which Halal certification bodies? The Malaysian, Indonesian, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are very well established Halal certification bodies, where this might not be the case in non-Muslim countries, where this is differently organized, often by the private sector. And so there might be a big difference between the quality of Halal certification bodies as well. So these are 7 criteria, and we have been working on Halal supply chain rating. And if you're interested on Halal supply chain rating, I think please connect with the Halal Supply Chain Alliance. For companies that want to join this movement to build international Halal supply chain networks, so please register at the Halal Supply Chain Alliance and connect with us. Before we go into the Q&A, I would like to thank you for joining this masterclass. For our next masterclass, we have Dr. Firdaus Feni. He is a consultant and academic, Indonesian. He will be talking about the Halal ESGs. He will be talking about during this masterclass on Thursday, 23rd of October, 2025. I look forward to meeting you there. Thank you so much.